Hey, I'm Julie, Fei-Fan Balzer, and I'm here with DeeDee, Catron. And DeeDee, it looks like you're in your, I'm going to guess, your workspace, your studio, your something, because you got all those baking racks behind you.
Are they not like the best idea ever? Every one of those trays slides out and has like projects and vintage ephemera and even like a paintbrush collection. Like it's such a good place to just store stuff while I'm figuring out what I want to do with it. This is my studio slash workshop. I run my business, art business and product business out of here. So yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your art and product business. Is this, I believe, the Wow Studios?
Yeah. Wow Studio. I always love telling people who don't know because it started like 10 to 11 years ago, making handmade embellishments, like hat
Wow.
pins and paper flowers and things like that. And over the last 10 years, we've branched into more art-based products and chipboard, stencils, die cuts, washi tape. I mean, basically, if I can find someone to manufacture it or figure out how to manufacture it myself, we've got it.
So speaking of manufacturing yourself, do you have a laser cutter and a lot of big machinery?
I do. So, like, about a third of my studio is dedicated to manufacturing. I have a laser cutter. A lot of people, I have a laser cutter, let me say that. And a lot of people go, "Oh, tell me a little bit about your laser cutter. Like, can I pick one up?" And I say, it's not really weekend machinery. It costs what a new car costs. Not cheap, but, and I have a vulcanizer and a couple other things that help me with my manufacturing. Yeah.
What does a vulcanizer do? I assume it's for rubber. When I think of
It
vulcanizing rubber.
does. It makes rubber stamps. So people who are seeing this, I soon on Wow Studio will have their own line. I will have my own line of manufactured rubber stamps.
That's exciting. Congratulations. Are they going to
Thank
be
you.
mounted, unmounted?
I'm going to offer them two ways, unmounted and on clean cushion. I don't have the storage for wood blocks, but they are rubber stamps. I call me old fashioned. I prefer rubber over polymer. But yeah, they'll come two ways on a sheet or clean cushioned.
I don't think you're old fashioned. I think, like, for me, if I'm going to use paint with stamps, if it's
Mhm.
not going to be foam, then it better be rubber, because silicone for me is only for ink. And I don't know this. There are some things about the placement that are better, but the squish of it, I find, like, for an inexperienced stamper, I find you almost always get a worse impression with a silicone stamp because everybody presses too hard. We
I
all do.
agree. Yeah, and we do, right? We kind of go in, especially as mixed media artists and multimedia artists. We're like, let's get this in there. And so when you're kind of switching to those clear stamps, we all tend to be a little heavy-handed, I think. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
always say, like, I need to buy all sorts of supplies that, like, Julie proof them. So, like, I need to buy paintbrushes that can't get trashed because they're gonna be in water for a month. I need to buy, like, supplies that where you can sort of back out of it or, like, make a mistake and deal with it or whatever it is. Like, everything has to be something I know will be able to be sort of, like, roll with the punches, I guess, is the best way that I can put it.
that makes so much sense. And I haven't heard anybody put it that way before, but I feel like I know you. Like that makes so much sense. My excuse me, my raw art brain subscribers, the first thing they ask me every time we get together is, have you washed your brushes yet? Because I just have like a huge water container and it's full all the way around just with brushes in it.
It's really usually, and I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. It's really usually the smell of the paint water that drives me to be like, I need to wash these.
Yeah. Is there spoiled milk in here somewhere? Oh no, it's paint water. That's right.
Exactly. It's problematic. It's problematic. Anyway,
Yeah.
so let's talk about something that I know is very popular that you run called the Ugly Art Club.
Yes. Look, I'm so glad you asked. In fact, I guess whenever this comes out, we're lucky enough to have you, Miss Balzer, Julie, as a guest in the Ugly Art Club for June. Spilled ink. I had to double check what month it was. Cold brain. um, The Ugly Art Club is exactly what it sounds like. It is a club full of ugly art. And we get asked a lot, like, it doesn't look ugly, or I don't feel like I make ugly art, or do I have to make ugly art? But we use the term ugly just to really mean making anything and everything. It's emotional, it's raw, it's what you're feeling. It's really sort of just getting up every day and finding, even if it's 5 minutes, to dedicate time to making art. And that's why we say ugly art, right? Like, it doesn't have to be the Mona Lisa. We aren't always selling masterpieces. We have to practice and hone and have intention when it comes to making art. So by calling it the Ugly Art Club, it really helps people feel more at home, and give them a sense of community too. Like, they can share and they're not always maybe on a pedestal, or it's not Instagram worthy, or,
Whatever that means nowadays anyway, who
I
knows?
I know. Aren't we all? Man, there are so many behind the scenes. I wish people knew how many behind the scenes conversations there are right now about how to figure out Instagram again.
It is. I do feel like, but it keeps you on your toes trying to figure out what it is you can do to get people to listen to whatever the messages you have. And I think the title of the club is so smart, because I think, one of the things that I've said to students for years that I think is so true is, I say, if you always aim for ugly, if you always aim for failure, if you always aim for terrible, then you're bound to exceed your expectations, because either it will be exactly what you wanted, ugly, terrible, horrifying, disastrous, or it'll be fantastic and you'll be delighted. But it's usually when the expectation in our head is of something beautiful and ethereal, and it doesn't quite work out that way, that we sort of lose our minds and get, pardon me, really disappointed in ourselves, and like start to have that feeling of like, I don't want to make art, good at art, I don't like art. I think by calling it the Ugly Art Club, you're sort of immediately saying, hey, we just make art, we don't judge it.
Yes, absolutely. So it is a club. Well, it was 13. I think it's going to go up to $19 the next open enrollment. But there's three of us at the head of it. So it's Tiffany Goff Smith, Kristen Peterson, and myself. And one of the things that, well, so it's a community, like you say. We want people to come. We want them to have a place where they can feel confident enough to share their art, no matter what type it is. In conjunction with that, we want people to experiment and try new things. So every month, each of us as the founders offer a video. That's where the price comes in. We offer a video to inspire, and sometimes it's pattern on pattern, sometimes it's mark making, sometimes it may be anything, whatever we feel that fits the theme. And then we also have the pleasure of inviting guest artists, and in June's case, is Miss Julie here for Spilled Ink, which made it just screamed Julie, really it did.
Well, let's talk about pricing for just a second, because I
Yeah.
remember I offer a couple memberships too. I know a lot of other people do. And one of the things, the comments that I hear often is people say things like, oh, it costs more than Netflix. And the interesting thing with that is always like, yes, it costs more than Netflix, and it has fewer movies than Netflix, is true. But what you have to understand is that that's millions of people paying a price, versus either tens or hundreds or however many you have. And so you're certainly not making Netflix money off of any of
Right.
these things. And that most of the time, I think there are very few artists I know who are like sort of rolling in the money, like Scrooge McDuck swimming through their winnings. It's people don't think about the amount that you're paying for website fees, for hosting, for various platforms, for supplies, for your time, for research, for all kinds of things. And in the end, I think most of us are making about 25 cents an hour happily doing it, but nobody's sort of ripping you off. I don't know if you've had that kind of pushback, and certainly as you're looking at a price raise, thinking about it.
Yeah, we have. And one of the things that we're trying to take into consideration with the price raise is that everybody who signs up in the future has access to all of our back content. So we'll be a year old. There are at least 3 videos per month, but more often than not, 4 times 12. So 48 videos. That is a few hours at least worth of stuff to watch. And we have excuse me, have had a little bit of pushback. We try to use the same argument you do. And I always think about artists who monetize their videos on YouTube, and then you hear about all these gamers and there's cooking shows who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on YouTube, but everybody cooks. Most people play video games. Most people exercise. Not everybody creates art. Our clientele is a lot smaller than some of those other areas or professions. So yeah, our prices have to reflect that, don't they? We have to feed our kids.
We do. And I mean, I think it's difficult because I'm always trying to balance it out. I understand that people are on a limited budget too. So you're trying to like see how you can support people for what they're able to do, but I also feel like at the same time, I recognize that I have a mortgage to pay and all that kind of stuff too. And it is interesting how people don't feel that they can ask other kinds of professions for free things, but definitely always, always, always artists get asked.
I am also part of a creative mastermind, and this comes up so much. One of our main conversations is, what is our artist worth? What is our expertise worth? All the time and effort that we've put into expanding our artistic knowledge to then turn around and offer it as some sort of paid subscription, workshop, in person or online or hybrid now. That's been so fun, doing like live Zoom classes. All that kind of stuff. Like, you aren't going to the doctor and asking them like, what's this lump? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to pay you. Yeah, in the creative mastermind, we talk a lot about that artist's worth, and exactly how people aren't turning to other professions and asking them for free things.
Let's talk about a creative mastermind. That's such an intriguing idea. Is this a group of people that you know or the formal program?
This particular one is other artists that I know. Sometimes I think we need some outside influence. Maybe we would get more done if we had somebody who was a little more organized than some of our artist brains. But I have heard that others are part of masterminds where there are lots of professions coming in, and we bounce ideas off each other, and we talk about social media and how to get the best out of it and what will fit our business brand. I should say that because even though we're all artists and we're all creative, we all have very different business models. Some of us have products, personal products that we ship out. Some of us are workshop based. Some of us are digital products. And some of us just work for other companies, get paid to do videos using other people's products. So it's really great. We gain a lot of insight, I think, which is probably the best thing, through each other and figuring out, what avenues are going to work best for our businesses.
So if somebody wanted to start a mastermind, somebody who's listening and thought, I'd love to start a mastermind to get better at my art or better at my business or whatever it is, how would you tell them to go about doing that?
Oh, I think first I would see if there were any people that they may admire or that may have insight for their business, and ask if they're willing to have a mastermind together. And then I know, and I've heard through the grapevine, and I'm not that maybe I don't know that much about them. I'm not that knowledgeable about them, but there are groups out there that you can actually sign up for and pay a fee to be part of masterminds, and they'll match you with people that may benefit you and you can benefit them. That's the other thing about a mastermind. I think sometimes people forget you have to give as much as you get.
Yes.
It's really important.
For people who don't know, because I guess we've never actually talked about what a mastermind is, the basic idea is it's almost like group coaching, but there's no leader, right?
Right.
Everybody comes in, and I think different masterminds work differently. Some people, assignments are made, and each person has to present on a particular topic and teach the group. Other people, it's much more sort of topical advice. So I think it depends on the group you're in. I know that the Craft Industry Alliance does matched masterminds on different topics where you can, if you want to experience it, and they have rather a low fee. I think it's $35 as opposed to
that's really affordable.
Yeah, where it's $600 to join a mastermind, which is probably less interesting since you're teaching yourself there. But I do think that finding people who are, it's kind of like dating, I think, where you need to find people who you trust, who you think are not going to talk about you behind your back because you're going to be sharing secrets, who are going to be open and honest, and who are going to give, who are going to show up, and who are interested in pursuing some of the same goals. Because I think where I've heard groups getting in trouble is where somebody feels like they're better than the rest of the group and like that they're giving away too much free advice or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's personality conflict issues, I think.
Yes, that is definitely a big proponent, a big component of it for sure. It has to be, and I love that you say it that way, like somebody you trust. It has to be people you trust. And if you aren't ready for a mastermind, maybe it's just like one person. Maybe you have one person you can bounce ideas off of, and you guys can share information back and forth, whatever it may be. But I feel like I always need to stress, like, make sure you also understand what you have to give, because everyone has something to give, even if you're not aware of it. Maybe your social media game is totally on point and you have all these followers, but you don't know how to turn it into a revenue, or vice versa. But
Yeah.
when you're ready, know what you have to offer also.
I think that's a good point in general, like both from a business point of view and an artist point of view. You sort of have to know your strengths and weaknesses. Because once you know your strengths, then you can offer them to other people and you can go towards them as you need to. And when you know your weaknesses, then those are the places you know that you need to look for support, for classes, for whatever else. But if you just sort of have a blind sense of it all, do you know what I mean? Then I think that's how you
Yeah,
get really lost. You talked earlier about intentions and how important intentions are, to success. And I think that's true as an artist, as a person, as in anything, that you need to like say out loud what it is that you want. It can be scary, but sometimes, if you don't say it, if you don't name it, then you're maybe not ready for it. I remember it's even works the other way. Like when I was getting divorced, the first time I had to tell somebody that I was getting divorced, I like could barely get the words out, but it got easier and easier. And it's like the reality sets in. And I think it's really helpful just to name the things good and bad.
absolutely. And if you have, you know, a significant other or a business partner or a creative mastermind, and you set your intentions and you say them out loud, those people, your people, they can check in on you and they can say, hey, you mentioned this. It's been a couple of weeks. Have you been able to make any steps in this? Have you moved forward? Have you moved backward? How's that going?
I think that's so key. So let's talk a little bit about the class that you're teaching.
Mm.
So for the Artful Holiday, I've watched your great video, and can you give people a little hint about sort of why you picked the holiday you did and where the project idea kind of came from?
Yeah. So should I say the holiday I picked, or should we
Yeah,
leave that
sure.
part? Okay.
Go for it.
I chose Astronomy Day, and I think it was really fun. Julie puts together an awesome idea, by the way, and I think it's very fun. And she mentioned, kind of choosing off the wall holidays that people may not necessarily be as aware of, or just another reason to celebrate, right? Like, we all need a reason to get up. So I've always had this sort of uh, drawn or infatuation with everything celestial. So whether it's planets or stars or the zodiac or galaxies or universe or life in other universes, I'm just so interested in all of it. So Astronomy Day made sense. And I came up with my project idea. So not from the creative mastermind, but on the other side, there's this fabulous artist, Tina Walker. And Julie, I think you're very familiar with Tina.
Mhm.
She's so talented, and she's like my business partner cohort. If I'm not doing something Ugly Art Club related, it's usually Tina based. And we were chatting about some different cool kick-ass projects that might be great for Astronomy Day. And the one I chose was at the top of the list. And it makes sense too.
Super fun. And the nice thing is people get to see some of the products that you manufacture, some of the chipboard pieces, which are really beautiful. Now, do you do all the designs yourself?
I do, yeah. So I try really hard. One of the things about being an artist, and I'm sure you're very familiar with this, is when you use products by other people, you always have to be aware of copyright issues, especially if you're going to photograph anything and turn that into a mass producible piece. And so when it comes to making art, a lot of the times I use art products that are designed by me, and all the chipboard, all the designs are hand drawn or vintage sourced by me. Same with all of them, I guess I could say. Anything that I produce. So
That's awesome. Well, I know people are going to love your class and be so interested, and you do keep it free and feeling really like easy and unconstrained, all those kinds of things where it feels very relaxed, which is lovely.
I cannot wait to see how people take it. That's my favorite thing. I think that it can easily be transformed into any other holiday that means something to somebody. So it's going to be really exciting to see where people plug in other holidays and the sort of imagery that they choose.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, DeeDee, and thank you for being part of the Artful Holiday.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to see this workshop come to fruition.
Me too.